all I could think about was the number. I met you when I was
23.
And the day we met was
September 14th.
9/14. 14 plus 9 is
23. Is it all just a coincidence?
I don't know.
Your podcast app, you'll see there's a discourse happening. Is this book a masterpiece or problematic? One's a lifelong diehard fan, the other's a first-time reader. Both are really smart and funny and attractive. Sweet Valley, talking trends and hierarchy. Sweet Valley, relentless focus on
Welcome to Dr. Rebecca Pardo's in-depth discussion, dissection, exegesis, a word I don't really know what it means, of the number 137. Are we going to get numerological? You better believe we're going to get numerological. As Rebecca always says, if you stay numerological, you don't have to get numerological.
That's my tattoo on my kind of lower back.
Take me on a ride. Fire up your spaceship.
I think it was in book 1 when we first had the conversation about the trope of Jessica always using the number 137 hyperbolically. And she'll say, this is the worst thing to happen in 137 years, or there must be 137 million guys out there that or whatever it is, right? We see this all the time. We've seen variations and so on. At the time, like you asked me about it, I'm like, I don't have any analysis of any significance about this number besides the fact that it's in there. And you said, that's not really good enough. We're going to need to do some analysis. So I decided to look into the significance of the number 137. And I found a plethora of insightful stuff. And it's really kind of multidisciplinary here. We have physicists, mathematicians, psychologists, people interested in metaphysics, literature. There are so many kind of different fields I'm learning where the number 137 has significance. So apparently since the early 1900s, physicists have thought that the number 137 might be at the heart of a GUT or grand unified theory, which could relate the theories of electromagnetism, quantum mechanics, and most especially gravity. Have you heard of this physicist called Richard Feynman?
Only because I asked AI, what is the significance of the number 137? And they got me to Richard Feynman. Also, I guess, there's that book, Surely, Mr. Feynman, You Must Be Joking. Like, I feel like he's kind of a famous physicist. Sorry.
Yeah, he is. The only thing I know about him is my old boss used to talk about him. I don't remember why, but that's how I heard of his name.
Is that Mark Zuckerberg?
So he had a fixation on the number 137. And he said, it's one of the greatest damn mysteries of physics, a magic number that comes to us with no understanding by man. You may say the hand of God wrote that number, and we don't know how he pushed his pencil. We know what kind of a dance to do experimentally to measure this number very accurately, but we don't know what kind of dance to do on the computer to make this number come out without putting it in secretly. And that is a quote from QED, The Strange Theory of Light and Matter, an adaptation for the general reader of 4 lectures on quantum electrodynamics published by Feynman.
And you were just like reading that otherwise. You just were reading it and you're like, oh my God, 137.
I just came across it when I was kind of reading that on the toilet. All right, now we get into the sort of nuts and bolts here. What are we talking about? So what is so magic about, or whatever, about this number? This number is the value of the fine structure constant. The actual value is 1 over 137, which is defined as the charge of the electron squared over the product of Planck's constant times the speed of light.
Okay.
This number, of course.
Keep going.
This number actually represents the probability that an electron will absorb a photon. However, this number has more significance in the fact that it relates three very important dynamics of physics: electromagnetism in the form of charge of the electron, relativity in the form of speed of light, and quantum mechanics in the form of Planck's constant.
We'll let our listeners absorb that for a second.
So I read that, I didn't understand it. I said,
That was
what
good.
is the fine structure constant? Okay. The fine structure constant is a fundamental physical constant in physics. It is a dimensionless quantity that characterizes the strength of the electromagnetic interaction between elementary charged particles. Okay, I couldn't get more than that. Okay, so I don't understand beyond that. It's important to physics. Okay, let me keep moving to math.
Wild. Okay, do we think
It's considered the most magic, mysterious number. Okay, listen.
do we think
Do
they
we think
knew
they knew
this?
this? No.
I think
No.
maybe.
Well, hold on. In mathematics,
Yeah.
137
Oh god.
is the 33rd prime number.
Sure, of course.
The next is 139, with which it comprises a twin prime.
Yes! Twin primes.
A twin prime is a prime number that is either two
Oh.
less or two more than another prime number. For example, either member of the twin prime pair, 1719 or 4143. In other words, a twin prime is a prime that has a prime gap of 2. So whatever, 137 are two separate and they're both primes is basically what it means, okay? So a twin prime is a prime number that has another prime number, either 2 less or 2 more than. They are called twin primes because they are like siblings that are very close in value. The proximity gives them a special relationship, much like twins who share a close bond. So I think there's something here around kind of like inherent connection despite differences.
This is so cool.
It is.
I've only encountered twin primes I play trivia, and there was a trivia question about twin primes that I did not get correct. And so I have like no real relationship with twin primes, except I learned about them because I was like, oh, I didn't get this question right. But what's interesting is the idea of whether there are or aren't infinite numbers of twin primes.
The implication being,
Just the implication. Sorry? Oh, for us, basically nothing.
oh, you mean the interesting question like mathematically?
Yeah, it's an interesting mathematical question. It has no implications for us whatsoever. It's not interesting to us.
I thought you were saying it's like interesting because like, oh, how many of the Wakefields are there or something? Like, I don't know what you're saying.
Yes, of course. I meant like, are there infinite extra Jessicas and Elizabeths that we don't even get to know about?
Well, not
Oh
a
my
spoiler,
God.
but let me just tell you in book 100, which is called The Evil Twin.
No, I don't want to. Nope, this is a spoiler. Don't.
Okay, shall we move on to psychology and mysticism?
Great.
The number 137 has been the subject of psychological speculation by Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst Carl Jung concerning his theory of synchronicity. Jung and physicist Wolfgang Pauli, according to the book Jung, Pauli, and the Pursuit of a Scientific Obsession by Arthur I. Miller, Jung and Pauli struggled in their search for a primal number that everything in the world hinges on, as well as a desire to quantify the unconscious. In the description of this book, the one written by Miller about Jung, listen to this. Is there a number at the root of the universe? A primal number that everything in the world hinges on? This question exercised many great minds of the 20th century. Their obsession with the power of certain numbers, including 137, which describes the atom's fine structure constant and has great Kabbalistic significance, led them to develop an unlikely friendship and to embark on a joint mystical quest, reaching deep into medieval alchemy, dream interpretation, and the Chinese Book of Changes.
Wait, so the number 137 brought together two of the greatest thinkers of our time just because they were in a space where they're both like, oh, I love 137. I love 137 too.
Correct.
I love that as a meet cute for them.
Now, the Bible
Oh,
says that Ishmael,
sure.
Levi,
Mhm.
and Amram
Mhm.
all lived to be 137 years old.
Oh, good for them.
The three appearances make it the most common lifespan of individuals in the Bible.
That cannot be true. Is that really true?
I don't have my citation of where I found this, but I can find it again if you want a reference.
Doubt it. That's why this is truly wild.
I think there was a 10-year age gap between Abraham and Sarah. Sarah died at the age of 127, thus Abraham was 137 at her death. According to Rashi's commentary in Genesis 23:2, Sarah died when she heard that Isaac had almost been sacrificed, as Abraham was 137 years old at the binding of Isaac. So it's showing up a lot.
A lot. This is
And-
wild.
And my last contribution
Okay.
is literature.
Literature.
Sonnet 137
Oh.
by our friend Shakespeare. Thou blind fool, love, what dost thou to mine eyes, that they behold and see not what they see? They know what beauty is, see where it lies, yet what the best is, take the worst to be. If eyes corrupt by over partial looks be anchored in the bay where all men ride, why, if eyes falsehood, hast thou forged hooks, whereto the judgment of my heart is tied? Why should my heart think that a several plot, which my heart knows a wide world's commonplace, or mine eyes, seeing this, say this is not, to put fair truth upon so foul a face? In things right true, my heart and eyes have erred, and to this false plague are they now transferred. So I Googled what this means, and it said that he hates the woman for being false, is slut-shaming her and saying that she's bad, but is still drawn to her.
Isn't he talking about love, though? Not a woman in particular?
Oh, I think he's talking about his love.
Oh, I think it could also be read as talking about love in general, which I think would make me feel less slut-shamey, which would be nice, personally.
Sure. But it's gross. It's your eyes have falsehood and you're just like entrapping men. And that my eyes see truth on your foul face. It's like,
okay, so
that's what I got.
I need to think through something with you. Is it scarier and more existential dread inducing that,
and I'm nodding,
okay, that
I know what, yep,
that they did know this about 137 or that they didn't know this about 137?
And that is a question that is beautifully explored in another poem.
What?
Which of course is designed by Robert Frost.
Oh.
Which of course we learned about in Morrison class, but I don't know if you guys learned
spider
about
webs and shit or
too.
something.
I think about this all the time. I found a dimpled spider, fat and white, on a white heel all holding up a moth, like a white piece of rigid satin cloth, assorted characters of death and blight, mixed ready to begin the morning rite. Like the ingredients of a witch's broth, a snowdrop spider, a flower like a froth, and dead wings carried like a paper kite. What had that flower to do with being white? The wayside blue and innocent heel all. What brought the kindred spider to that height, then steered the white moth thither in the night? What but design of darkness to appall, if design govern in a thing so small? And when Morrison told us what this poem meant, he said that what it means is we usually think of scary being chaos. Everything's just random. But what this poem is saying, it's actually frightening, that there is actually design or some sort of intention or some sort of plan around even these tiny little beautiful, perfect things in the universe. And I think what you're asking about 137 is, yeah, which is scarier? That this is by design or that this actually was just out there?
Well, for me, it's way, 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 way scarier if it's not by design. If it's just random that they picked a number and they picked 137, which is like such a crucial, vital, important number, that is way scarier to me than Kate Willem just being like in a grad school class and somebody being like, 137 is kind of a wild number, and her being like, I love that.
Well, what's funny about it is like when I went on this path, I'm like, the internet is so vast that probably most stuff you put in and you say symbolic significance of, you probably could have 20 pages on it kind of thing, right? But the stuff around the like, this is the mystical number that holds the keys to the universe, and that the people who have written these books and done these investigations aren't randoms.
No, they're real
like
big people.
Famous scientists of like the biggest in the world. It's like, oh, this is like... That made me go,
Yeah, I mean, the biggest scientist in the world, Richard Feynman, the Bible. Like, we're talking science here, people. It's terrifying.
Yeah, the most common lifespan depicted in the Bible.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
I love it and I hate it. Odi et amo.
I don't know the reference, but I don't need to.
Oh, it's like Catullus' most famous. Oh, I just looked it up. How amazing would it be if that was Catullus' 137th poem, but it's not. It's Catullus 85.
Well, now we're just looking.
Now we're just fishing.
Be seeing it everywhere.
Yeah.
Like that movie.
The number 23?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first time I saw the number 23, I was on a plane. And the second and third times I saw the number 23, I was on that same plane because I just kept watching it over and over again because it like wormed its way into my psyche. And I have never seen it since. I watched it back to back on a plane and have never seen it again.
Whoa, now we need to talk about this because I really need to understand what. Hold on, all three was consecutive?
Yeah, back to back.
This was like overseas?
Consensual.
Overseas flight?
It was overseas flight. I do some traveling.
I need to understand what made you watch it the second time, and then what I really need to understand is what made you watch it the third time.
So
this is shocking.
I'm gonna be honest. I like don't remember basically anything about the movie.
Can you describe to listeners just quickly what it is, like for who's in it, whatever? Isn't it
a Jim Carrey movie?
You're right. It's Jim Carrey. I haven't seen it, but I listened to the "How Did This Get Made" episode about it. It is Jim Carrey, and it was like had a personal obsession, and like he's fully like. Yeah.
Basically, it's about like the main character starts seeing the number 23 or thinks about the number 23 and then starts seeing it everywhere and it like governs his life and he becomes obsessed with it to his own like ruination, I think. But I watched it 3 times consecutively, back to back to back. Is that not the most unhinged thing you've ever heard?
What made you... So you finished it the first time?
Yeah.
What's your thought process as you go play again, as you click play again?
To give listeners...
And do you go to the bathroom in between? Or I'm
going to the bathroom all the time. It is not terribly uncommon for me to finish a work of literature and then start it over again.
Of course, if it's a text that demands a second reading, that's like me with Salt Lake City Housewives. I got, each one you got to watch at least twice.
Oftentimes, it's a thriller with a big twist at the end.
And you're trying to like piece it together.
Exactly.
And watch it again that way. Okay.
And so that's, I think, what I was doing with the number 23 the second time. And then I don't know what happened with it.
Did that yield satisfying...
It must not, because I watched it again.
But so you were on board to the extent that like you felt that like it is coherent and good and it's on you to make sense of. So you watched it a second time, were not able to make sense of it, and we're like, well, I still trust it enough that I think it's there. It's like Elizabeth with the clam surprise kind of.
Yeah, it's
she
very
just hates it and keeps
surprise.
eating it.
Heavy as lead, still in my mouth.
That's like me with the movie Mother ! Which I hate so much that I watch it all the time and I hate it and I make other people watch it, but I also love it.
We don't have time to get into the mother of it all, unfortunately.
I think I realized I do love it.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, I have the text transcripts.
Yeah. But I hated Black Swan. Let me tell you, I hated Black Swan. I couldn't even get past even a few minutes.
Never seen.
So boring. So boring. Thanks for listening to Sweet Valley Hive, hosted by Robert Marks and Rebecca Pardo. For more, check out our Instagram at Sweet Valley Hive. Theme song by Yessie and artwork by Elliot Carroll.